I didn't flinch when the words landed like a slap. I just gave my mother a quiet nod and walked past the long, glittering dinner table, straight to the least desirable seat near the kitchen door. It was my brother Oliver's birthday, and I wasn't exactly the family's prized jewel. The table was picture perfect. Tall candles flickered in crystal holders, the cutlery gleamed, and wine glasses sparkled under the chandelier's icy light. Everyone sat in tailored clothing, dripping with effortless wealth. Polished, posed, practiced. Willow, Oliver's wife, and the queen of passive cruelty, whispered as I passed her, "You're lucky we invited you at all. Try not to ruin this one." I hadn't even opened my mouth. Oliver sat at the head of the table like a monarch, toasting with one hand and flashing the expensive watch on the other. To the most successful man in the family, Willow cheered, eyes full of admiration. Laughter erupted. Except for me. I stared at the water glass in front of me. My reflection trembled on its surface, a woman wearing a plain, second-hand navy dress. My fingers were calloused from night shifts scrubbing stairwells and restocking dusty shelves. I didn't belong here. And they made sure I knew it. That's when the air changed. A sharp clearing of a throat, a sound that silenced the entire room. Grandpa Howard, 83 years old, with a stare sharp as cut glass and a cane that had more authority than anyone's job title at that table. When he stood, people listened. When he spoke, people obeyed. He turned his head, slowly, methodically, locking eyes with me from across the table. "Scarlett," he said, calm but commanding, "is the $5,000 I send you every month enough?" My stomach plummeted. Every muscle in my body froze. I blinked. Which money? The silence wasn't just awkward, it was catastrophic. Everyone stopped breathing. My mother's fork clattered to the floor. Oliver's smugness cracked, eyebrows drawing in, the corner of his mouth twitching. Grandpa narrowed his eyes, as if confirming what he'd suspected all along. And then, with deliberate fury, he slammed his cane down onto the marble floor. The chandelier swayed. "I've been wiring $5,000 to your account for over 2 years, he said. "Every month. On the first. I thought I was helping you." "I never received a dime," I whispered, my voice trembling. Dead. Silence. He turned to my parents. "George. Clara. Care to explain?" My father turned scarlet. We used it to help Oliver's startup. "You told us you wanted to support the family. You thought I meant stealing from your own daughter?" Grandpa's voice cracked with betrayal. "You funneled my money into his account while telling me she didn't need it?" Willow's eyes widened. Oliver stood up. "I didn't know. I swear, Grandpa, I didn't." "Sit down." And he did. I stood slowly. My hands were shaking, but I held my voice steady. "You told him I didn't want his help. That I was too proud. Is that what you told him?" My mother's voice cracked. "It wasn't like that. How many times did I cry to you, begging for rent help?" I said. "How many nights did I tell you I couldn't afford groceries? That I was eating instant noodles for weeks?" She looked away. I turned to my father. "How could you?" "For the family," he said quietly. "We thought it would help Oliver grow, and eventually." "And what about me?" I whispered. "Was I not family?" I turned to Grandpa. "You want to know the worst part? I still showed up tonight. I still hoped they'd treat me like a daughter. Like a sister." Grandpa didn't move for a long time. His face was stone. Then he slowly reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a thick envelope. "Take this," he said, extending it toward me. I hesitated, then walked over. My fingers brushed the leather as I took it. Inside was a wire transfer confirmation. A brand new account in my name. A deposit. $120,000. Gasps echoed down the table. "That's what they stole from you," Grandpa said. "And then some." Then he looked at my parents with ice in his eyes. "Tomorrow, I'll be speaking to my lawyer. You are both cut out of my estate. Completely. Oliver, too." "What?" "Grandpa, no. You can't do this." Oliver shouted. "I can." And I just did. He turned back to me. "Scarlett, would you like to switch seats? Or, better yet, sit at the head of the table?" I looked down at the untouched food. At the hands that had never lifted a finger for me. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I picked up my purse and walked out without saying a word. Not a single bite touched. Not a single look back. Outside, the cold hit me like a baptism. I stood still on the porch, staring at the blackened treetops swaying under the moon. My hands shook. Rage, grief, vindication, it was all tangled together, like storm clouds caught in my chest. Footsteps behind me. Grandpa. You handled that better than I expected, he said, his voice quiet now. I turned slightly, just enough to see him. Better than I expected, too. They've always underestimated you. Even as a little girl. I looked away. Then why didn't you ever ask? Why didn't you check on me? He swallowed. Because I believed them. And I'm sorry. I nodded. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was something. You don't need their pity, he said. You need justice. And you're going to get it. 2 days later, I got a call. From Grandpa's lawyer. Turns out, the envelope was only the beginning. He hadn't just wired me money. He'd rewritten everything. My parents were cut out. Oliver too. The lake house. The trust. The business shares. All transferred to me. That's when the messages started. My mother. A dozen voicemails. Sobbing. Scarlett, please. We didn't know it would go this far. Can we talk? My father. You're tearing this family apart. Over what? Money? And Oliver? Not even the decency to lie. He just sent one line. You'll regret this. Enjoy being alone. But I wasn't alone. Not anymore. I was building something stronger than their approval. I was becoming something they couldn't ignore. It didn't happen all at once. Revenge, real revenge, the kind that leaves scars so deep they echo in silence, isn't a storm. It's a drought. Slow. Silent. With every drop withheld until the roots crack and the air dries out. 2 days after the dinner, I walked into a law office downtown. Quiet, small, unassuming, but with a nameplate already mounted on the door. Scarlett Howard Financial Solutions. Grandpa had already filed the paperwork. Registered the business. Paid the first year's lease. No ceremony. No speeches. Just a desk. A drawer with legal documents. A laptop. A beginning. I didn't cry. I didn't even smile. I just sat down at the desk, placed both hands on the surface and whispered to the empty office. You will not break me again. The fallout came quick. Willow was the first to crack. She posted one of those subtle Instagram stories, a photo of her expensive coffee, captioned, "Some people don't deserve second chances. Entitlement is ugly." She didn't tag me. She didn't need to. Her entire friend group knew what she meant. Then came Oliver's podcast. I wouldn't have seen it if someone hadn't sent me the link. He leaned into the mic, voice calm, rehearsed. Sometimes, when you give money to the wrong people, they start thinking they earned it. It's sad, really. I watched it twice. Then closed the tab. They thought I'd retaliate. That I'd post. That I'd respond. I didn't. Because I was busy building. I arrived at the office every morning before 7 a.m. I answered every call. I filed paperwork. I taught myself investment principles. Took online courses. Met with small business owners over coffee, asking questions, offering help. Free consultations, no ego. No billboard, no announcements. Just quiet, consistent work. And people began to notice. Clients came. Then referrals. Then speaking invitations from women's finance circles. One day, I opened an email from a small community college nearby asking if I'd do a guest lecture on financial recovery after debt. I stared at the screen for a long time. They wanted to hear me. Me. Meanwhile, Grandpa wasn't done. He told everyone. Every associate, every partner, every old money contact at the country club what had really happened. With facts. Names. Dates. One by one, the dominoes fell. Oliver's startup lost 3 major clients within a week. Rumors spread, whispers about stolen funds, unstable investors, bad ethics. Their social media manager quietly stepped down. My father? His name was scrubbed from the charity board he'd chaired for over a decade. No explanation. Just gone. And my mother? She vanished from every country club committee, every brunch invite. Her name stopped appearing in the society pages. Her silence wasn't out of shame, it was out of fear. The kind that creeps in when your illusions collapse. Still, no one apologized. Not really. But they tried to negotiate. A knock came one night. I peeked through the peephole. Oliver. Disheveled. Pale. Unshaven. I opened the door just a few inches. What do you want? He looked smaller than I remembered. I messed up. I said nothing. I didn't know about the money, he said. They didn't tell me. I thought you were just. I don't know, proud. Difficult. I tilted my head. So that made it okay to mock me every year? To tell everyone I was a failure? He rubbed his hands together, nervous. Please. Just talk to Grandpa. Tell him to change the will back. Or at least split it. I'm your brother. I looked him in the eyes. Cold. Unwavering. No. You're the man who laughed while I starved. And I shut the door in his face. Not with fury. With finality. Weeks passed. I never reached out. Never posted a quote online. Never paraded the inheritance. I didn't need to. Because silence is louder when it's earned. And then one morning, I arrived at the office to find a small cardboard box outside my door. No note. No markings. Just left. I brought it in and opened it carefully. Photos. Hundreds of them. Old family albums I hadn't seen in years. Me and Oliver at the park. Me helping Mom in the kitchen. Me holding Grandpa's hand, barely 5 years old, smiling so wide I could barely fit in the frame. At the bottom, a folded letter. Scarlett, these photos are yours. They tried to erase your place in this family, but I never forgot who you were. Keep them. Frame the ones you love. And remember, your roots run deeper than their lies. Grandpa. I sat in silence, holding that letter. And I wept. Not because of grief, but because someone finally saw me. Not the burden. Not the background character. Me. Later that month, I received an invitation to speak at a women's business conference. 200 women in attendance. Entrepreneurs. Moms. Survivors. I wore a navy blazer. Simple makeup. My hair tied back. And when I stepped on that stage, I didn't tell the sanitized version. I told the truth. I wasn't born poor, I said. I was made poor by a family who decided I wasn't worth investing in. I begged. I worked. I bled. And they smiled while taking checks with my name on them. The crowd was silent. Then came the murmurs. Then gasps. And when I finished, a standing ovation. Afterwards, a woman approached me, eyes wet with tears. My daughter went through the same thing, she whispered. You have no idea what your story just did for me. I took her hands. And I smiled. Then tell your daughter this, I said. She's not broken. They are. Weeks passed. And then? I saw it. The restaurant where Oliver and Willow once hosted their grand anniversary gala, with printed invitations and candlelight menus, now had a different sign on the door. For lease. Gone. Their little empire was crumbling. Quietly. Slowly. Just like mine had. Except this time, no one was there to catch them. 3 months after the dinner that exposed everything, I stood outside the house I grew up in. Not to visit. Not to make peace. To buy it. After Grandpa cut them off, my parents had tried everything, quietly remortgaging, liquidating assets, even attempting to sell the house without alerting the family. But the listing found its way to Grandpa. And then to me. I don't want to live there, I told him. He nodded. Then don't. Own it anyway. I made a full cash offer. No negotiation. The realtor, a sharp-eyed woman with red glasses, blinked twice when she realized who I was. You know your parents will have to be out by next Friday. I smiled faintly. That's fine. I'll give them until Monday. I never went inside. Didn't need to. Those walls had seen enough of my tears. They didn't deserve my footsteps. I walked away, keys in hand, and for the first time, the past stayed behind me. The office grew. I hired 2 staff members, both women who'd suffered family betrayals, who were told they were too emotional or not built for business. We weren't just an agency. We were a rebuild. Clients began to pour in, not because we were loud, but because we were good. Quietly, thoroughly, powerfully good. We saved women from debt. Helped single moms launch businesses. Taught financial literacy in community centers. My name, the one they once spat at dinner, became one whispered with respect. Then one rainy Friday morning, I received a letter. Handwritten. No perfume. No manipulation. Just pain. Scarlett, I know you have every reason to hate me. I failed you. We failed you. I let pride get in the way of being your mother. I convinced myself that helping Oliver would help us all. But the truth is, I wanted to believe you didn't need anything so I could sleep at night. I see now that I was blind. And cruel. You didn't deserve any of it. I won't ask for your forgiveness. But I hope someday you find peace. Mom. I sat still for a long time. There were no excuses in that letter. No defense. Just regret. And strangely, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like release. I didn't call her. I didn't tear it up either. I folded it, placed it gently in the drawer beside Grandpa's letter, and closed it, because that's where it belonged in the past. The next week, Grandpa hosted a small gathering at his house. No suits, no silver cutlery, no fireworks. Just a fireplace, some jazz music, and chilled lemonade. He pulled me aside. You know, he said, when I found out what they'd done to you, I blamed myself the most. I tilted my head. Why? He stared into the fire. Because I gave them the rope to hang you with. I took a slow breath. You also gave me the tools to cut it. He chuckled, a soft, old sound, weathered by time but warm. Then, from a shelf, he pulled out a worn, brown leather notebook. My original ledger, he said. From the first business I ever ran. I want you to have it. The pages were yellowed, the ink fading. Scribbled numbers, hand-drawn charts. I traced a line of his handwriting with my fingertip. You built everything from this? I asked. He nodded. And now you will build even more. I hugged him. Tightly. For the first time in years, I felt what a family embrace was supposed to feel like. Safe. Solid. True. A year after the birthday dinner, almost to the day, I stood backstage at a national finance conference. Over 2,000 attendees. Cameras. Media. Spotlights. They introduced me as Scarlett Howard, founder, educator, investor, survivor. I stepped onto the stage. Not trembling. Not small. Not the girl at the end of the table. I was the woman who took their betrayal and turned it into blueprints. I looked out at the front row. And there he was. Grandpa. Smiling. Proud. Alive enough to see what they tried to bury bloom in full light. That night, as I walked through the city, I passed a building that once meant everything to them, Oliver and Willow's anniversary restaurant. The one with their picture in the window, glowing in gold. Gone. Photo replaced. Curtains drawn. A faded for lease sign taped to the glass. My phone buzzed. A text from Grandpa. They finally realize who the real legacy is, kid. Proud of you. I stared at the screen. Not because I needed the validation. Not because it felt like revenge. But because this was justice. Quiet. Complete. Undeniable. I wasn't trying to ruin them. I was becoming someone they could no longer lie about. My revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel. It was simply this. You don't get to write my story anymore. I do. And this time, there's no seat for you at the table. Liked this story? Hit that like button and tell us in the comments if you have any similar story. We would love to hear it. And of course, subscribe for more real revenge stories like this, where justice is served cold and real.